We are looking at English Paper 3, and this is 2019 KCSE compulsory set text, Blossoms of the Savannah by Henry Olekulet. And this is question 2. It reads, responsible decisions can lead to serious consequences. Referring closely to Henry Olekulet's Blossoms of the Savannah, write an essay in support of this statement. So we are going to attempt this question. And what are our expectations? 1, in every paragraph, we expect background information. 2, a responsible decision. 3, serious consequence or consequences. Let's look at introduction. If one makes a rational decision, he or she should be ready to face dire consequences. In Blossoms of the Savannah, characters such as Olekaelo, Olosoduri, Olarinkoi, and Maumelanoi are victims of such decisions. At this point, accept any other relevant introduction. Paragraph 1. When Olekaelo is retrenched from Agribix Limited, he decides to strike a deal with Olosoduri. The business contract enabled Olekaelo to put up a residential house and an agricultural input shop in Nasila. While in Nasila, Olekaelo decided to visit his friend and mentor, Ole Supeo, who was an established business person since Olekaelo's childhood days. When asked about his business capital, Olekaelo informed Ole Supeo that he had made a contract with Olosoduri, who financed his establishment. Ole Supeo is shocked that Olekaelo sought help from such extortionist and corrupt man who is infamously known in Nasila. He wants Olekaelo to keep him away from his daughters, for he has a reputation that matches of a rand he got. At this point, Olekaelo regrets telling Olosopeo his secret. Though he feels that Olosopeo could be envious of his successful entry into business, it dawns on him that a man of Olosopeo's stature does not use the word taba lightly. When Olosoduri visits Olekaelo's home and meets Reshan, he gets interested in her. He waits for Olekaelo and breaks the news to him. Olekaelo regrets and finds it hard to convince Reshan to accept marriage proposal to Olosoduri, who later strengthens his resolve by paying double the bride price for her. Reshan refuses to marry Olosoduri, even after her father slapping her. Due to the disagreement, she decides to run away from home with assistance of Olarinkoi. In attempt to meet Olosoduri's demand, Tayo is later cheated and lured to a suite where she is circumcised so that she can be married to Olosoduri. Luckily, the Makere's rescue team, comes to her rescue and saves her from the claws of Olosoduri by taking her to Minik's ranch. In the end, Olekaelo loses his daughters to Emakerere because of his irresponsible decision. Olosoduri makes an irresponsible decision when he wants to forcefully marry Reshan and later on Tayo. Apart from financing Olekaelo's residential house and business, he pays dowry to ensure that his decision is enforced. He visits Olekailo's home and tells Reshan that nothing stops him from getting whatever he wants. Reshan sees him as a monster and says his sight scares her. When he makes his intention clear to marry Reshan, she runs to seek audience with her father at the shop, who informs her that he had already taken the dowry and thus she was Olsduri's wife. Reshan weeps bitterly and tells her father to kill her instead of marrying Olisduri. She feels betrayed and runs away from home to Ntare Najo Ranch. Olisduri further escalates the irrational decision by storming Emekare's ranch in a convoy of expensive cars and demanding for one of the girls. Minik resists Olisduri's demand, asking him to leave, for he would get neither of them. This enraged Olisduri, who commanded his people to get hold of Reshan. A pandemonium ensued when the ranch workers swung into action, clobbering Olisduri's entourage, chasing them and burning his cars, reducing them to smoldering shells and acrid smell of burning tires. Olisduri's irresponsible decision made him lose his cars, he and his people getting assaulted and chased away. Olarinkoi is another character that makes irrational decisions that later affects him negatively. When he finds Reshan at Rivanosila contemplating suicide, he takes that as a golden opportunity to fulfill his mother's prophecy that he would marry one of Olekailo's daughters. He lies to Reshan that he was saving her from forced marriage to Olosiduri by taking her to her role model Minik and Kontoi, when he actually wanted to take her to his home and marry her. In Inkito, Olarinkoi decides to rape Reshan. He claims to want to know how educated her body was. Reshan resists his advances by biting his thumb. That caused him a lot of pain. He howls in pain and knocks Reshan in the ribs, leading to her pass out. When Enkoboni learns of the incident, she reprimands her son for the foolish decision, since the prophet had nothing to do with rape. Enkoboni says that Olarinkoi had denied himself an opportunity to marry Reshan. Olarinkoi regrets the attempt and tries to ask for forgiveness from Reshan. As Reshan recuperates from the assault, Nabaru sympathizes with her and decides to save her from imminent circumcision and marriage to Olarinkoi by organizing for her transport to Ntare Najo Ranch. Early in the morning, before an Enkamratani and her team storms Olarinkoi's hut to circumcise her, Nabaru calls her out and helps her to get into a lorry that takes her to Emekare's ranch. Olarinkoi's irrational decision causes him both physical and emotional pain as he loses Reshan. Mamilanoi makes a responsible decision by keeping quiet when her daughters Tayo and Reshan are under threat from retrogressive cultural elements of Ma. Though she knows that female genital mutilation is a barbaric and painful act, she does nothing to protect her daughters from it. She knows very well that if it were to happen to them, then mother-daughter's relationship would be strained, for it would terribly hurt them. She feels that were it not for Nasila's sensibilities, she would have shielded them. She never gave her opinion on any issue. Reshan blames her for the silence and opts to use her sister Taiyo to convince her father Olekaelo to allow them to go back to Nakuru and enroll at Egerton University. It is her sister Taiyo who reassures her that all is well and that she would always be there for her. When Olekaelo told Mamilanoi to prepare her daughters as potential wives of Nasila men, she just kept quiet because women were meant to be submissive and to take instructions. Mamilanoi thus lost trust of her daughters. Reshan decided to run away to seek refuge at Minik's ranch, where she was later joined by her sister Taiyo. Mamilanoi had to endure losing her two daughters just because she failed to protect them when they needed her the most. This pained her a lot. In conclusion, irrational decisions can cause huge negative impacts. The family of Olekaelo and Mamilanoi disintegrates because of selfish and irresponsible decisions. Thus, it is necessary for us to think critically before making any decision. At this point, accept any other relevant conclusion. Thank you for listening, and I request you kindly to subscribe to this channel for more revision material on paper 3. Thank you so much.